Guys, thank you for coming together today. My wife was secretly in debt to me. And 10 million. It's impossible, isn't it? My husband, Ed, who gathered 15 relatives at his parents-in-law's house, said so. My husband holds up the IOU and holds it up in front of his relatives. My parents-in-law approached the IOU and saw that it said my name, Nicole Clerk. They gave me a puzzled look. And when I looked around, my relatives had the same expression. Freezing air. My laughter rang out. Ed, what are you talking about? I'm not in debt. You can tell such a blatant lie and it will be irreparable later, right? Nicole, it's no use trying to deceive you. Here's an IOU with your name on it. Depending on what you say and do, I'm thinking about getting a divorce. If you understand, be honest and apologize to your relatives. My husband advises me. Seeing my husband like that, I laughed again. It's useless for my husband to deceive. As I said before, if you tell a blatant lie, you can find out with a little research. And yet, my husband is full of confidence. Don't even know that I know everything. As I was desperately holding back my laughter, my parents-in-law asked me fearfully. Ed says that, but what is it really, Nicole? There seems to be an IOU, but it's all of a sudden. I want to hear from you. My parents-in-law were confused but looked straight into my eyes and talked to me. I was on the verge of tears. I answer with a gentle smile. Again, I haven't borrowed a single penny, let alone 10 million. I can't believe you're in debt. It's been a few years since we've known each other, but I can't really see that kind of atmosphere. I agree, Nicole is a firm person for whom modesty is the right word. But the IOU. Which one am I supposed to believe? In front of his parents who sighed, my husband took a step closer with a fearless smile. Actually, there's something suspicious about Nicole's behavior lately. She's suddenly away from home more often. So I was curious and looked it up, and I found this IOU. I'm sure she's spending a lot of money outside. She doesn't have many friends, so where and to whom are she paying tribute? I can't get enough of that. Please don't talk about things that manipulate impressions. I was away from home because I had a business meeting. My husband shrugged his shoulders exaggeratedly and shook his head from side to side. A job? Wife's job is to do housework, right? Neglecting your day job is a complete loss. What are you talking about? I was doing my chores properly. You're going to push it. You're the one who knows best that you've been doing your chores as much as you normally would, right? You seem to be paying attention to my behavior to the point where you counted how often I was away from home and checked all over the house. Who's going to pay attention to you? The bride is as transparent as air, and she will not interfere with her husband. And yet you were an eyesore from the beginning. When my husband turned red in the face and pointed at me, my parents-in-law interrupted us. Now we have to talk about debt. The story of the couple is for another time. It was a bit of a worrisome conversation, but there's an order to things. So, Nicole, are you sure you're not in debt? When my parents-in-law asked me to check again, my husband gave me a light tongue lashing and then looked down at me like he was looking at garbage. Accept the truth right away. Because of you, all of your relatives' precious time is being lost more and more. Well, I agree with the idea that it would be better if we could get the truth out sooner. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. So, I'm going to reveal everything to all of you. The corners of her husband's mouth lifted unpleasantly. I smile beautifully and say the words. I'm definitely not in debt, it's your lover's debt. What? Lover? What are you talking about? Debt. We were talking about your debt, weren't we? Why here, and even more mistresses? The advent of a new power word caused an uproar among the relatives. Everyone is looking around with puzzled faces. My husband banged the table hard. You're trying to put your debts on the shelf and blame me for the crime right here. Did you see? This is the nature of a woman named Nicole. I don't care about my nature, I'm talking about Sarah right now. I've already done some research, so I'll tell you in order. With the mention of specific proper nouns, the faces of the relatives turned to us at once. My husband's complexion hasn't changed, but I haven't missed the momentary stiffness in his body. First of all, that's right. You seem to be obsessed with your nature, so I'll tell you about your nature. You're paid more than someone who works for a big company that everybody knows. You treated me like a housekeeper. There were a lot of agreements, such as, make at least 7 dishes of rice every day, or grill the meat one by one and bring it to my plate each time. If I was reluctant or had the slightest inadequacy, you would preach endlessly until I apologized. Among the relatives, the eyes of the women become sharper. My husband turned his face away to escape their gaze. And I've always had a say in how I spend my money. It's a waste, it's a luxury for you. You never tried to spend money to make us spend time together better. So people said they were jealous of having a good husband, but I wasn't satisfied at all. By the way, the clothes, which I'm wearing now, were bought a few years ago. I've been told to wear it until it's torn. I heard a voice from somewhere saying, it's a pity. My husband turns around, but everyone doesn't make eye contact. But at some point, spending started to increase. It was completely unfamiliar to me, and of course I wanted to find out why. If I spend too much money than I need, Ed will get mad at me. That's something that I did a lot of research on. As a result, it turned out that the unexplained expense was due to Ed's tribute to his cheating partner, Sarah. Come on, like you're a miser. It's only natural that I don't want you to waste my money. Still, I wouldn't have inconvenienced you in any way. I gave you my living expenses, and I should have taken out some of your clothes. Besides, how dare you suspect someone of cheating? You may not know it, but if you work, you're going to have a lot of expenses. The increased expenditure is also due to the company's relationship. Socializing with the company. Right. If you're not willing to admit it yet, I'll give you concrete evidence. I took out the documents and photos from the envelopes I had prepared in advance and distributed them to all my relatives. This form is a copy of your recent card statement. My father-in-law, do you need luxury brand miscellaneous goods for your work? I don't. If you do that, the company will blame you for being with you more than necessary. Normally, I would go out for a drink, or go out to play golf or something like that. That's about it. And here's a picture of Ed and Sarah. What's in the back? It's obviously a hotel. I think you just came out of the hotel, you entwined arms. Are you still insisting that you're not cheating? When my mother-in-law said with great enthusiasm, my husband flinched for a moment, but immediately knocked on the table again. It's data I don't remember. This is a ploy by Nicole. You're trying to trap me. At those words, I burst out laughing as if I had been repelled. My husband shakes his shoulders. My father-in-law, mother-in-law, and other relatives also looked suspicious. You've got to remember what you're just saying. You can do as much research as you want on me. Don't regret what happened today. Huh? You suddenly start laughing. You're a creepy woman. You're the one who regrets it, because I'll never forgive you for making a big deal. We have proof. My husband threw an IOU at me. This time, my father-in-law and mother-in-law stand up and stop my husband. Why don't you stop? You've been rough with Nicole since a while ago. I haven't cleared up the debt story, but it's clear that you were at fault too. If you're going to blame Nicole for this IOU, you should take responsibility for this photo too. My father-in-law, mother-in-law. Thank you for being angry for me. But don't worry, I'll prove my innocence. Give me a little time. I completely ignored my husband, bowed politely to the two of them, and left. A few weeks later, I gathered my relatives at my parents-in-law's house. My husband crosses his arms and glares at me. Have you made up your mind to run away and apologize to me right away? No, you're the one to apologize. Because that IOU was a forgery. Relatives straighten their posture in unison. Everyone is staring at us without blinking. It's not enough to just apologize, because a proper document like an IOU can be charged with a crime if it is forged. And yet, you can show it off so easily and give it to me. Didn't you know you were going to be punished? So you acted without a second thought. You're kind of reckless. What? This one is even properly stamped with a seal. Then let's clarify it. Megan. Please come in. A few moments after I called out, the door to the room opened. A well-dressed woman in a suit walks in. Let me introduce you, she's Megan, and she's a lawyer. Megan politely bent her back. My name is Megan, and I'm a lawyer. Nicole has been talking to me about Ed. Ed had previously pointed out that I was going out more and more because I was meeting with her for an investigation. I was also able to gather evidence of the affair thanks to Megan's help. And the other thing is that she introduced me to a document appraiser. I went to him with the IOU that Ed had given to me. I just received this yesterday. I show the results in front of my relatives. It was officially stated that the IOU was forged. A cold gaze gathers on my husband. No. It's not a counterfeit. It's real. After saying that, my husband turned his gaze to Megan. A searching gaze. Megan tightened her eyes and my husband shut up. As expected, he seemed to shy away from a real lawyer. You're right to bring Megan in. I murmured, and Megan smiled contentedly. My parents-in-law look at their child silently and sigh deeply. It looks like we've found out what's true. You tried to incriminate Nicole, who is innocent, and you tried to deceive all of our relatives, and you can't get away with it for free. I'm sure we've talked about it, but Mom and Dad couldn't have kids. You were my long-awaited child. And yet I can't believe you're doing such a stupid thing, and I'm so miserable right now. Looking at the faces of his parents who were a mixture of anger and sadness, my husband turned his head down. As expected, he must have reflected on it. However, when he looked up again, his eyes were full of resentment. I thought my birth parents would have my shoulders, but you didn't. Oh yes, I forged an IOU. Is it bad? I didn't really think anything of Nicole. But I got married to her because I thought I could take her money and mine with it. Moreover, if she takes care of the house, I can kill two birds with one stone. And a daughter-in-law is the same as a husband's housekeeper, right? What are you talking about, Ed? That's what you looked like when you came to say hello to your wedding. Ed was indeed kind at the beginning of our marriage. Even when we were dating. That's why I loved him so much that I decided to marry him. But now that I think about it, I guess he was deliberately being gentle and hiding his true nature. My husband raised the corners of his mouth on one side. It's like a demon from a fairy tale. That's right, marriage was not love for me, but a means of convenience. But when I met Sarah, everything changed. I woke up to true love, and my destiny was Sarah. That's why I decided to forge an IOU and get a divorce. Wait, Ed, if you wanted a divorce, you should have just told us that, didn't you? You didn't have to involve all my relatives. You should have had to report after the fact. Why did you go out of your way to complicate things in a way that made Nicole's position worse? I mean, it's not cool. At my husband's words, his mother rolled her eyes. I mean, it's not cool. There's nothing cool about divorce, right? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Mom? It's better for me that it's Nicole's fault, and if it goes well, I'll be able to wind up the money. There was no guilt in my husband's eyes, he just smiled. The relatives froze with their mouths open at what he had said, but eventually they turned to themselves and stood up one after another. Eventually, they all stood up and began to pour accusations against my husband. My parents-in-law are also red in the face like a boiled octopus. Are you really the son of man? What do you think of Nicole? She's a young lady who has been carefully raised in a different house. What you're doing is making fun of not only Nicole, but all of your relatives. I thought I was taking good care of you, but apparently you left the screws on your head somewhere. And I'm sure you broke down as a person. Otherwise, you can't imitate such an outrageous thing, none other than our son. Even after being told all this, my husband still only laughed with a smirk. His posture is also sluggish, his shoulders are rounded, and his body is swaying from side to side, and he is restless. You can say whatever you want, I just thought and acted to make myself happy. Isn't it better to have a son having fun than to live with a scowl on his face? I'm going to start my life over with Sarah. My real life starts right now. My husband began to raise his hands and cheer, and his relatives seemed to be jumping on him at any moment. It's annoying if we need to call the police. I will stand up and dominate both. Calm down, everyone. Since I'm the biggest victim this time, can you please leave Ed's treatment to me? Oh, you're right. Sorry, I couldn't get away with it. Yes, there are priorities. We are the next after Nicole. Thank you for your understanding. I bow politely to my relatives before facing my husband. My husband still has a smile on his face that makes a fool of people. While working for a big company that everyone knows. It was a pretty lousy plan for a big performance with my life on the line. If you look up a counterfeit IOU, it will be exposed immediately that you will only be charged with a crime. It's ridiculous that they thought you could really fool us. It looks like you were soaring at the meeting with Ms. Sarah. I deliberately shrugged my shoulders, and my husband's eyebrows contorted slightly. Immediately, I give my husband the biggest smile and throw a bomb at him. And it's bad that you're having a climax by yourself. Your dear Sarah, she has long since abandoned you. My husband's face froze. The muscles that keep the corners of the mouth raised are twitching slightly. My husband retracted his laughter once, adjusted his muscles and state of mind, and then let out a dry laugh again. Come on, don't lie about it, it's no use trying to escape a divorce. My love for Sarah is solid. I don't care about your love, I'm telling you the truth. I've met Sarah with Megan once. When she found out that Megan was a lawyer, she immediately sat down on the spot. She said, "I think of Ed as an ATM," and she told me everything before I even asked.
Ugh.
It's a lie. It's a lie. Anyway, it's this guy's strength. As he said this, my husband turned blue and hurriedly tried to contact Sarah on his cell phone. However, the ringing just keeps going on, and it doesn't connect at all. At the end, an announcement was heard: "We cannot connect to the number you called." What? What? Why can't I connect? What does it mean I can't connect? What did you do to Sarah? I didn't do anything. It was the other party's intention to block the call, right? I've been recording the conversation we had when we actually met. Would you like to listen to it? When I turned the volume up, the conversation "Ed is an ATM" echoed throughout the room as I explained. My husband sits on the spot with all the strength in his body gone. It's a lie. Even if I'm the one tied with the red thread. That's what she said. We loved each other so much, and that's why we even committed crimes. Large tears spilled out of my husband's eyes, and stains on the rug one after another. When I look at it, my heart doesn't move a millimeter. I just think it's dirty with his runny nose. I felt sorry for the dirty rug at my parents-in-law's house, so I threw the box of tissues away. My mother-in-law feels the same way, so she puts the nearest trash can next to my husband, while making a rather loud noise. I want to reconcile the two of them. We're going to have a discussion between the four of us, you and Sarah, and me and Megan. If you have something to say to her, go there and talk with her. So don't bother your parents anymore. I'll never forgive you. I'm sure I'll sue you and ask you to pay alimony, so be prepared to do so. I insisted on my words and left my parents-in-law's house with Megan. After that, I demanded alimony from my husband and Sarah as declared. I also reported the forgery of the IOU, and my husband was charged with a crime. However, the person in question is in the sky above, and he doesn't seem to care about being arrested. Apparently, he still can't believe that Sarah abandoned him. Even when the four of us had a discussion, he was always pressing Sarah for love. If it wasn't for Megan, it would have gotten out of control. However, Sarah is consistently cold and has no love for him. In the end, she blamed all the blame for the affair and the alimony on the sound and left. Of course, all his relatives, including his parents, cut ties with him. With no one to rely on, and only the debt remained, my husband would regret it for the rest of his life. On the other hand, I would say that although the uproar has subsided, I am sometimes haunted by my husband's nightmares, and I am dragging on my mental shock. I was once betrayed by someone I really loved. Naturally, it is not surprising. Still, I don't consider myself unhappy. Because I have a dear friend, Megan. Megan contacts me in her spare time and cares about me. Fruits that have always been favorites, trendy sweets. Whenever she sees me, she brings me a souvenir that makes me happy. Thank you for everything, I'm not alone. I couldn't be happier about that. Of course, I'm with you even if you don't like me. Our laughter echoed in the sun. Spring is almost here. The cherry blossoms with large buds are about to bloom.